we're concentrating more on the speaking section, what steps and strategies you need to take, and how you can come out great with the interview section, the cue card, or the long run. I'll be right back. Okay, welcome one more time to this section. Today we shall be talking about the speaking section. Why should students fear the speaking section, or probably why should the anxiety of the speaking section pop up so high that you tend to lose everything the moment you think of the speaking section? Now, we should remember that the speaking section is a skill that we as humans practice every day. The truth is, between reading, the listening, the speaking and the writing, we do more of the speaking than any other section or probably skill module of communication. So why should we have issues with the speaking section when we all know it's going to be assessed, analyzed by a trained examiner? So that alone in its own entirety kind of bring in the fear: am I going to do well? Am I going to get a right score band? Or am I going to answer the question properly? So all these are part of what really surges their anxiety that comes with the speaking section. But let's get it clearly. The speaking section requires you to concentrate on 4 key areas of assessment. A lot of students don't know this, that while you're speaking, the examiners or the raters are looking out for 4 basic areas while you speak. I shall be discussing those areas today and what we should do while we get up a question and about answering the question. Let's start off from the first part there, which is the pronunciation. Now, what are the examiners looking out for when you're actually speaking? They want to really know if you're pronouncing the words appropriately. So, for instance, if you have the word M-O-T-H-E-R, mother, then you have M-U-R-D-R, murder, and you mix up these 2 words together, then you have a challenge. So they also want to see how your words come out. Are you saying youth instead of youth? That could be part of the key things they are watching out for. Remember, your accent has nothing to do with this. So whether you have a broadened American accent, a British accent, it changes nothing. The most important part is the pronunciation must come out very clean. So they have to hear what you're saying so that comprehension can come in straight. In addition to the pronunciation, you also have to know how you raise your pitch and drop your pitch. So I always advise students, when you dabble into a question, don't start up too fast. Naturally, when you speak with friends or family members, you don't speak up too fast. You start with a gradual pace. As the conversation heats up, your pace begins to increase. It's a natural phenomenon. This shouldn't change in the speaking section. So the moment you get a question, you try as much as possible to make sure you start on a very calm pace, and gradually as you pick up all the ideas you will be discussing with or responding to, your pace begins to go up. That is how it should pan out. Your speed is not assessed, please. So do not try to enhance your speed by assuming that or creating the premonition that you get more scores on that. On the pronunciation, make sure your words are very clear. Your pronunciation stress pattern is also fair. Even though you don't have an high-tech phonological knowledge, you still can do well with the pronunciation. Second, another key area the examiners will be looking out for will be your fluency and coherence. Now, what do I mean by fluency and coherence? This has to do with the rate at which you connect your ideas. How do you relate the ideas? Are you having too much breaks in between your responses and ideas? Or one idea sentence flows into another seamlessly? So the examiners want to see how much comprehension you can place to the question and how your responses connect the question. For instance, if you make sentences without making sure that each part of the sentence are well integrated, you might not be scored high under the fluency and coherence area or mode of assessments. Because here the examiner is more concerned about how you start up a sentence, how you back up a sentence, how you give details to that sentence. For instance, you could be asked about a question that has to do with gift. Talk about a gift you received recently, and you begin with, the gift I received recently is a gold wristwatch. I got it from my uncle. It was a birthday gift. It looked very expensive, and that's why I love it so much. Now, if I speak this way, I don't really have much of the fluency coming in to my sentence. So the sentences come with enormous breaks in between, and fluency point here will definitely drop. So if you make up your sentences, try much as possible to make sure your complexity, or rather the complexity of the sentences, are well integrated. So the first sentence beautifully links to the next sentence, and the next integrates deeply with the detail you're given there. Try much as possible to speak as natural as you can at this point here, because the more natural you speak, the better the fluency level and the coherence. In addition to this, another key area the examiners will be paying attention to will be your grammar range and accuracy. Now remember, if you're versatile with the writing section, you find out that we have this particular key area of assessment in your writing too. So whatever knowledge you have in that area, you also need to put it in check in your speaking section. At this point here, the examiners are looking out for your tenses. They want to see your concrete usage. How well are you using the subjects and your verbs? Also, they want to see how well you flow with other forms of grammar elements like using idiomatic expressions. All these still compute or create components to how your grammar range and accuracy would be analyzed. So if you know that you naturally, when you speak, you give out simple sentences all through, you need to be very careful, because the more complex your sentences are, the better the ratings. So if you're not really aware of how your sentence structures look like, I would encourage you to write down responses before you even think of responding with spoken words. This way, you'll really know how your sentences are being structured. And don't forget, we speak the way we write. So if you actually follow the trend of your writing pattern and you understand the structures of your writing pattern, it will be easier for you to speak in that manner. In this part, the examiners also will want to see how well you integrate various elements of collocations, using the right word in the right places. These will help the examiners to really see if you really answer the question properly or probably just beating around the bush. And let me just note this clearly. There are no areas where you're given additional scores for answering the questions rightly. That means that if you say the exact thing you experienced towards the question, does not necessarily mean you get more points for that. So they really want to see your comprehension of the question, not the exactness or the correctness of your responses. And finally, examiners will be paying attention to how you use vocabularies. Okay, now this area of vocabulary is very key, because it is more of a word usage in how you apply these various contexts of words as given to you in a question. Here, they want to test the ability to see if you really have a very wide range of vocabularies, so you don't end up repeating a particular word over and over. The dexterity of vocabularies does not happen in a day. I advise students to practice on a daily basis. So you could pick up a scenario whereby you have like 5 vocabularies learned in a day. So if you're achieving that feat in a day and using these vocabularies, by the end of the week, in 7 days, you must have learned 35 words. Remember, you do not need a lot of it. Just a few words will help you scale through. I often see students or hear of students saying you want to learn 1,000 vocabularies, or you see some YouTube sensational headlines telling you 1,000 vocabularies of the IELTS, 1,000 vocabularies of TOEFL. The truth of the matter is, if you take a list of these 1,000 words, the chances are very high that you already know 80% of these words. Now, knowing is one thing, applying is another. So the application of the words on demand is one of the key skills a lot of students don't have. So you often hear a lot of students say, I know the word I want to say, but I can't just remember, it's not falling through. Obviously, at that very moment, it can fall through because you're already creating an atmosphere of need, which you've not been practicing with. So the words will naturally come. My advice is, if you find yourself in a very tight situation like that, and a word is not coming in that you need instantly, the truth is it won't come. Look for another word. That is why you need a wide range of vocabularies. So how do the examiners score the vocabulary section? For instance, if you ask the question about a gift, okay? Talk about a gift you received recently. As you talk about a gift I received recently, if I start with that now, that means I'll be repeating the question and probably repeating almost all the key words in the question. Why not start more appropriately by saying, I think I received not quite long. It's a good wristwatch. Now, did you know something there? The question came up with a gift. I responded with a present. A wonderful synonym there. Recently, I used not quite long. This way, I have a range of ideas I can use in placements to the question elements there. The moment you're doing this, the orator or the examiner already have a picture that you understand to a greater extent. What keywords were used in the formation of the question. While you're speaking, one of the easiest ways to really not use keywords in the question is to use reference. For instance, my uncle gave me the wristwatch as a present for my birthday. He's a wonderful person, though I don't often see him. Now I used he in place of uncle. So I would have said, my uncle gave me the present and it's an expensive one. My uncle is not always around. Now I still use my uncle after I mentioned my uncle earlier there. So this repetition might not be pardonable. So if you start off with keywords, try as much as possible to replace them as many times as you can with other words. Now don't get me wrong, using the examiner's words doesn't mean it's a death sentence, but it implies that you have already used some other replacements and using the examiner's words as complements is a wonderful thing. Let's take a quick rundown on all 4 key areas of assessment. I started off first with the pronunciation. There I talked about how you relate with your keeping up with the words and how they sound while you're responding to the question. Next, we talked about fluency and coherence. Here we looked at how the pace of your speaking will look like and how much integration your ideas can produce. Thirdly, we talked about grammar range and accuracy. Here we talked about the use of tenses, use of concord, and above all, how you flow with complexity of your sentences. And lastly, the vocabularies, which is a lexical resource. There a wide range of vocabularies could come in place while you are actually speaking. Now, once you have noticed all these areas of assessment, so you know where the examiners are coming out from, you need to put yourself on check. How would you do that? Now, one thing I advise my students to do is, mostly when they are having a practice on the speaking section, is to make sure that they are recording their responses if there is no other person opposite them reading the questions to them or probably listening to what they're saying. Now, that would the person be some kind of high-tech language consultant. You can just have a friend, a relative, or a neighbor do this for you. The most important part is you want to get into that atmosphere of having somebody listen to you. I guess that is where it begins from. Once you know somebody's listening to you, you get all a little bit packed up because you feel whatever you say is being assessed or analyzed. If you don't necessarily have the availability of people helping you with the questions, I would rather advise that you record your audio and listen to yourself. And watch out for these 4 areas I have mentioned earlier: the pronunciation, your fluency and coherence, grammar range and accuracy, and finally your lexical resource. Critique yourself and ask yourself if you've actually complied with these areas of assessment. If you have, then you are on a very good standing as regards the speaking section. In addition to this practice, I will also advise that you listen to other professional programs or probably talk shows where you can listen to people communicate or converse. This will help boost your level of speaking because there we'll learn to speak by listening to people speak. And remember, if you're listening to people you speak better than, then you can't learn anything from them. So it's better you kind of make a very simple plan towards those you know speak better. And communing with people like that will definitely enhance your speaking abilities. Now, the way you're listening to me speak, you think I was born this way. I wasn't born this way. I naturally enhanced my speaking abilities by practicing on a daily basis. One good thing about speaking is once you have it, it's there and it's there forever. But you need to take critical steps, brutal steps into analyzing how you speak and why you respond the way you respond. I'll be right back to give you tips and do's and don'ts of the speaking section. Okay, I welcome you back to this part where I give you the tips and basic do's and don'ts of the speaking section. 1. If you get to the speaking center where you're about to take your speaking tests, it is not an atmosphere for communing with people. Remember, you're there for business, to speak and get a good score band. Do not get too entangled with people. More than 55% of those writing the IELTS have taken it once or twice. So if you're at the center, you might likely bump into somebody that must have done the test before. And the truth is, for you to see the person at that test center, the story is not a good one. And since we are humans and we're born to talk, you definitely hear a lot of stories of people not doing well with the test. And if this is your first time coming to the center, you definitely get the creeps and the chills down your spine. And in addition to this, you also have to have at the back of your mind that you'll be sitting in front of a human being. So you have to put yourself at peace in the mind so you don't get too fidgety. Naturally, when you meet an individual for the first time, there's always this first time nervousness you get, which a lot of students exhibit in front of the examiners. But the truth is, you have just 15 minutes maximum to really communicate with this person. So you really need to let that anxiety thing just get eliminated instantly. So how do I get this in there? So once you step into the test room, already I've told you need to put a lot of smiles on your face and your ID checked and you're really at ease with yourself. Try as much as possible to understand what you are getting to answer or respond to. For instance, if a question comes your way and you don't get to understand the question, remember, understand the question. What you really quickly do would be to ask for a rephrase. You could say, "Sorry sir, can you kindly rephrase the question?" Meaning you don't understand. Or probably you could say, "Sorry, did you mean?" Now you put in your own words what you could understand or comprehend from the question. That way, the examiner will either corroborate or support what you said or probably rephrases the question for better comprehension. However, if you definitely did not hear, now if you did not hear, that means there's a very stronger position to say you would understand. So you did not hear the question. And this happens a lot as a result of some phonological intake. So the examiners use a lot of phonetics while asking you these questions. So if you really have such issue, it is better you ask for a repeat of the question. There's no shame in doing this. You can't respond to what you don't understand. Okay? So be bold enough about it and ask, "Oh, sorry, can you kindly repeat the question? You didn't get the question." If that is done, you also need to know that while repeating the question, the examiners might likely use the same words they use in saying the question the first time, or probably use what we call synonyms in context to really rephrase the question again. Whatever happens, you need to be calm, cool, and collected so you get the question this time. Subsequently, if you're about to answer a question, you have two things to do. One, you can begin a response to a question with a preamble, or probably you head directly to answer the question. For instance, you could be asked to talk about sleep. Why do people sleep? People sleep for a lot of reasons. First, probably to get rejuvenated after a stressful period. Now, I can do away with People sleep for a lot of reasons. I just go straight. Oh, people sleep in order to get rejuvenated after a stressful period. Now, starting off with my preamble simply gives me an ample time to think through how to construct my sentences. But if I feel the preamble is not necessarily needed because I have my details handy, I can go straight to answering the questions. I often get questions from students indicating that examiners naturally just cut them off while they talk. Now, this happens probably because you've given out all the necessary response the examiner wants you to give, or the examiner is satisfied with your response. So if you feel the examiner cut you off in between your sentences, don't feel bad about this or uncomfortable. It is a natural thing. Moving on, once you are answering the questions, make sure you try as much as possible to use your own words. The more of your own words you use, the better you get relaxed and more comfortable you are. For instance, if you're talking about a traveling experience, you could talk about a trip in your own version of response. Traveling, a trip, you're still saying the same thing. Repeating your words gets you a little bit in a cagey situation whereby redundancy begins to spill in. Once you have too much redundancy in your responses, you definitely will not do well. Don't forget, the key idea about the speaking section is they want to hear you talk. Prove beyond reasonable doubt you can communicate in both formal and informal situations, or probably in a social context or non-social context. And one way to show that is to continue talking. So keep hitting at it until the examiner stops you. So for instance, if you're asked a question mostly in the cue card section and you're given about 2 minutes to respond to the question, which implies you have about 120 seconds to speak, try as much as possible to keep pushing it till you get to the end, or probably the examiner stops you. Now, don't take this all hook, line and sinker. If you're done with what you want to say and there is nothing else to say, kindly round off your response. Make the examiner know you're coming to an end. You can begin with a good linker or transitional marker. To this end, in summary, in conclusion, in a nutshell, eventually. So these are wonderful linkers you can use to indicate that you're coming to an end. In addition to all this, you should know that when you speak, you have so many ideas you're trying to construct together in order to give a wonderful response. You also must watch out on how you present your sentences. If you give too many simple sentences and the complexity of your structures are toned down a bit, it implies that you might not get a wonderful score band under the grammar range and accuracy. So the more of complex structures you give, the better. I know the big question bothering your mind will be, how do I give complex structures? Let's take for instance, let's talk about a party. Why do people go to parties? And you begin by saying, people go to parties for several reasons. One of the reasons could be to make friends. Having the opportunity to meet a lot of people you know gives you the atmosphere of bonding and sharing ideas. Now, if you look at my sentences, I just kept them in simple format. I didn't bring in any form of linker or transitional marker, which is the trick there anyways. So I could say, furthermore, in addition to this, and that makes my sentence a little bit integrated. Oh, people go to the party for several reasons. One of them could be to bond with friends and meet people, hence having the opportunity to share ideas and opinions. Now note something carefully there. The word hence comes in to bring my 2 simple sentences together to make them compound. If you're still not clear about the subordinators, the linkers, and transitional markers, I would encourage you to tap on the link above now and watch that video. There you'll learn more about linkers, subordinators, and transitional markers. Moving on. While you're answering the questions on the speaking section, try as much as possible to understand the scope of what you're giving out. Naturally, follow-up questions. These are questions that will be blurted out from your response, meaning that the examiner will definitely ask you these question types based on what your responses have been. So once you have a follow-up question, your mind should be at rest because you already have details to push on this. And once you're given details, try as much as possible to make them very succinct. Don't tell stories. The speaking section is not an avenue for super storytelling. Make sure every detail you give matters a lot. Let's take, for instance, you're to answer a question on a trip you took to a museum. Now, the detail you could give there could be about artifacts, archaeological findings, or objects you can see in the museum there. Now, each object you have there will definitely have a purpose, a reason, or probably a particular historical connection that makes it to be more like a focal point for the museum touring. So these key items you have there are what you're paying attention to. So try as much as possible not to go out of the context of what you're given. And most importantly, while you're giving out your ideas, make sure you don't discuss the ideas before you state them. Rather, state the ideas and discuss them. One of the reasons why a lot of students don't really speak that long or have this length of response is because they just list their points, all their ideas, and they don't discuss them. Remember, the questions are all impromptu. The more you list and not discuss, the shorter period of time you'll spend, and examiners might be forced to ask you to continue talking. I guess for those that have taken the test before and watching this video, you must have come across a scenario where the examiner gives you a hand motion like this. That means continue talking. Now, when that happens, it means we've not had enough of you yet, so keep pushing it. To avoid a scenario like that, most importantly, when you don't have any other thing to say, is to make sure that for every time you give a list, there should be a kind of a discuss, an elaboration of that point. This is what I mean. For instance, you could be asked a question on exercise. Why do people carry out exercise? People carry out exercise for a lot of reasons. 1, to keep fit. 2, to have healthy life. 3, now if I go this way, you find that at a point, I'm lost of ideas. I don't know what to say. Because 1, I am answering an impromptu question. 2, I've not given time to note my points. 3, I have to think, and the time isn't there. So what I do here is, I've had 2 points in mind that is sufficient enough to develop ideas. So I would say a lot of reasons people exercise could include keeping fit. Today, we have a lot of people working round the clock as a result of improving their careers or elaborating on what lifestyle they intend to carry out. And this does not really give enough time for exercise. So exercise in this manner will bring about a form of rejuvenation which will enhance the capability in both formal and informal atmosphere. In addition to this, having a healthy lifestyle could definitely be connected to healthy exercising. A lot of people come down with one element or the other as a result of having too much cholesterol in the system, and having exercise enables us to burn down unnecessary cholesterol and fatty items in our system, reducing free radicals. Hence, having all these done will make sure that the lifespan of an individual goes longer. So longevity is key in this moment. Now, if you notice something carefully here, one idea led to another led to another, all integrated, because I was at the back of my mind thinking of, I have to develop my ideas. So if I keep on just stating them and not developing them, within a short period of time, I'm done. But if I put my developing statements or sentences alongside, you can find out that I spoke at length. And if I'm given the opportunity, I can give more specific details. So I could say probably somebody waking up in the morning before going to work could jog around the environment or probably through the park on the lonely street and back to the house. That would give me more time to talk. Note this clearly. If you're taking a cue card and you're done with all the questions set given to you, for instance, talk about a teacher you admire so much. When did you meet the teacher? What did the teacher teach you? What do you admire most about the teacher? Do you still have another teacher you admire as the one you just spoke about? Now, these could be questions set here to answer. The moment you're done with answering these question sets in your cue card and there is no other question to answer, and the examiner hasn't stopped you, you can do what we call creating generic questions. Generic questions are questions you create on your own based on what responses you've been giving to the question given to you on the cue card. These questions weren't given to you, but you want to keep on talking. And you can't just be talking out of the blues, you need something to discuss on. So generic questions will help you keep pushing it. So I encourage you to practice a lot on this generic question because it might look a little bit tough while you're discussing, probably giving out responses, and you have to think of questions you can talk about. With a lot of practice, you can achieve it. Remember, the aim is to keep talking. And don't forget, while you're giving your responses, try as much as possible to make sure that you use a lot of words. These words are called register. Register are mostly referred to as professional jargons. The truth is, every word or probably field of endeavor you come across have a specialized set of words connected to them. So if I have a word like traveling, then I have to talk about words like roads, words like means of transportation, ticket, touring, passenger, baggage, luggage. Those are key registers to traveling. If I talk about education, then I have to talk about online classroom, offline classroom, principal, dissertations, assignments, these are keywords related to education. So for every question set given to you, they must fall into a particular field or area of endeavor, and key register words are connected to them. I will encourage you to practice a lot. I'll be giving out a few words that I think that might connect most of these registers I just mentioned earlier on, and I know it will be of great benefit to you. In my next video, I'll be talking about how you can develop a wonderful preamble to start off your point development. Wonderful preambles could be used to begin up your talk, and this will give you an enormous time frame to develop ideas that will come afterwards you've stated your points you want to talk about. Detailing these points requires enormous practice, and we shall be practicing together so you get there. Remember, you can speak better than I do if you keep practicing daily. Spend at least 1 hour every day practicing with a person or an individual you know speaks better than you do. Find them around your workplace, your living space, even on the streets where you live. You definitely will come across people that speaks better than you do. These are the sort of people you have to connect with, and they will definitely help you brace up with the basic nitty-gritty of the speaking section. In addition to this, before I finally leave you, you should definitely create time to listen to a lot of materials online, like watching TV programs that connects a lot of British and American accents, and probably watch a lot of movies, read magazines a lot, often online. This will help promote or probably boost up your speaking abilities. And don't forget, watch out for my next video. It will be more about their abilities of creating preambling statements and also developing ideas. If this video really made a lot of sense to you and you learned from it, I would say you go down below this video and subscribe right now. And don't forget to hit on the notification bell so you get my new video coming up. Instantly. Wish to hear from you. If you got a question, or probably you want to get something done through the difficulty you've been having, why not send me a comment? I'll definitely respond to your comments. It's nice speaking with you.